Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel 18 Wheels to Wings, where I take you on my journey from a tractor trailer driver all the way up to hopefully a commercial pilot someday. It's been a couple months since my last update, and I apologize for that. You know, YouTube's not really a priority for me, but I am trying. And like I said, this in the very beginning, if you watched my earliest video, this is kind of more of a documentary slash journal series for me to keep track and see how things have progressed. And but today's a big update. Big update. Big things happening. First, I guess let's start with the special issuance. I had to renew by the end of this month on my first class medical with my special issuance. My special issuance video is probably my best video so far. People seem to want to know more information about that. So here it is. This is my first actual renewal since my actual special issuance came through, and we got it. Simple, real simple, at least for me anyway. Again, everybody's situation is going to be different when it comes to special issuance, but in case you weren't aware, I had a special issuance for kidney stone issues, and part of my special issuance letter says that I have to go to my urologist yearly, get scans and bring a progress note. So that's what I did. I had my appointment with my urologist a couple months ago, brought in the report that he had typed up to the AME, and I was in and out in less than 20 minutes. Gave him that report. He checked it over. Yep, that's what the FA was looking for. Perfect. I can sign you off, because in the letter it gives instructions to the AME saying what they're allowed to do per whatever I give them for information. So I gave him the thing. He checked it over the letter. He said, yep, this is what they were looking for. You checked that box, so I can go ahead and issue today. I did my EKG because now I'm 41 years old. Had a birthday back in December. So I have to have my EKG yearly now for my first class. That was perfect. Vision, perfect. Yeah, everything was great. So issued class 1 again. Moving forward, my AME seems to think that I may have to do this once or twice more with my urologist and the updates and everything, but at some point this will probably fall off, and then I'll just go back to needing a regular first class medical instead of a special issuance. So we'll see how that goes. I'm sure there'll be an update. You know, if I get a letter from the FAA at some point saying, hey, you know, we need this for your next one, then I'll do that. One thing I did want to mention with the special issuance is something that I missed, and I don't want you to miss. It's not a huge deal, because I was still legal to fly. It was fine. But on my letter, and when I read down through, because it was a few pages that I got from the FAA, on my letter, my validation, or it was for 1 year, my class 1. Special issuance. It was expiring of March, the end of March of this year. However, in the letter, and I must have glanced over it when I first got it a long time ago, but I had to go on to MedExpress and actually fill out my application 6 months before March. So back in September, I had to have that done. I didn't do that. I didn't get onto MedExpress until beginning of February, because I wanted to get it set up for my renewal appointment. And that's when I noticed in the letter it said September. I was like, oh no, I didn't do that in September. So I reached out to the FAA, the New England regional office, and just asked, hey, like, do I not have a medical anymore? Like, what happens? Because I didn't go on to MedExpress and do my application in September like the letter said I was supposed to. And they got back to me and said, nope, you're fine. You've done it now, and you're going to go, you got your renewal coming up. All that happens when you don't do it by that date we get to is it reverts from a first class to a second class. So I was worried. I was like, oh no, you know, this is special issuance. I didn't do it by this date. I don't have a medical anymore. That's what I was worried about. And like, no, you still have a medical. It's just it reverts to second class until you get the renewal done. So sweet. So that's something to think about. Make sure you read that letter very, very carefully. Make sure you follow all the steps very carefully. I could have got screwed, you know, glad I didn't. But make sure you pay attention. If it says you have to do something by a certain date, make sure you do it by a certain date. Like, and that's the thing. That was the weird thing about the letters. It said I just had to fill out the application on Med Express by September. I didn't actually have to have the renewal done until March. So, yeah, that was a bit confusing. I didn't know why it was like that, but the FAA, it's the government. So, either way, I'm renewed. I'm good. According to this, I'm good until March of next year. So, perfect. Any other questions on the special issuance? Let me know, or if anything comes up in the next little while, definitely update you on that. The other big piece of information, and this is probably the biggest piece of information, is I am officially a private pilot. I had my check ride 2 days ago on Sunday. I was the third one to go, third out of 3 students that went with the DPE that day. Nervous as heck, but I passed. God, it wasn't as bad as I was building it up in my mind to be. I'm kind of one of those people that, I put a lot more weight on my shoulders when it comes to these kind of things than I probably need to. And I was, stressing out about it, and because this is obviously something I really want. This is something that I've been, working hard to do, spent a lot of money towards. So I was like, I want to pass, and spent an hour doing the oral, little over an hour in the air, came down, he shook my hand, said, congratulations, you're a private pilot. And there it is. I stage 1 complete, got the private pilot's license. I don't know what else to say. I not that I'm shocked by it, because I anticipated that I would do it. I expected myself to do it. I felt prepared. But always worried, anything can happen, but we got a pretty fair weather day. Winds were light. I think the max wind I saw was 9 knots. So it was all under 10. It was great. Yeah, it was easy. Now I know not all DPs are created equally, so take that with a grain of salt. Mine went well. My DP was awesome. However, I'm sure there are DPs that are a lot more strict and a lot more, take their time with everything. This guy was just like, hey, I'm just here to make sure you're safe. That was the biggest thing. Do things and make sure you're safe. That's what I learned. And so that's what I'm going to take with me, is just make sure I keep being safe about it. But go in prepared, go in with all your documentation, everything checked off. And I was worried because a couple of weeks ago I got the flu. I was actually scheduled for my check ride a few weeks ago, and I got the flu right as I was supposed to have that, so I had to cancel, and I was all bummed out. So a couple of weeks later, when I finally got this one to come in, I went down through my logbook, make sure all my endorsements were up to date, went through all my paperwork, printed out my IACRA application, like everything, just to make sure I had it all. The endorsements was the biggest one, because some of those will lapse and they have to be re-endorsed. All my endorsements were still okay, but double check that. If you have to postpone your check ride once, twice, a couple times, make sure your endorsements are still up to date. But yeah, here I am. I'm a pilot, officially a pilot. Now, obviously, I got still a long way to go to become, go from my 18 wheels to wings professionally. But personally, privately, and just on a sense of pride level, yeah, I've done it. I'm there, I don't know what else to say about that. It's kind of surreal. Didn't ever think it was going to get to this point, So how long did it take me? Well, let's see. I started training full-time in September. Not full-time. So I went Part 61. I was training an average about 1 to 2 days a week, depending on how the weather and my schedule looked. I tried to train on my days off. I had 2 days off a week. And right from September through December, basically, it was pretty consistent 2 days a week. There were a couple of weeks where there was weather issues, but for the most part, it was pretty consistent. So, December, the holidays, my birthday, a lot of things kind of broke that up. And then January, February, it was kind of like I was already in check ride prep. Hitting a lot of the stage checks and stuff, which I know Part 61 really doesn't do stage checks. It's more of a Part 141 thing, but my school does that. So I was knocking out my stage checks, and as far as hours were concerned, my instructor was ready to sign me off for my check ride at 48 hours, which he did. By the time I actually just did my check ride, I was up to around 53, 54 hours total. So that's kind of where I landed when I finished my check ride, 54-ish hours. I haven't totaled it up to the 10th or anything, but that's where I was at, roughly, with some quick math. But, the way I looked at this is it's not a race, right? In the end, I still have to get to 250 for commercial. In the end, I still got to get to 1,500 for ATP. Like, who cares if I got my private at 48 or 68? Like, yeah, I know it saves money. There's money concerns and stuff, but I still got to build that time. I still have to get the 68 hours eventually, right? I'm still going to have to build to that. So whether I'm a private pilot now while I do it or whether I'm still a student when I do it, I still got to do it. Yes, you could save money by not having to have an instructor go with you for that long. Obviously, repeating lessons, waste money. I understand that part of it. But in the end, hours are hours, man. I still got to build those hours. Now, yes, commercial needs a certain amount of cross-country time, nighttime, all that stuff, which I'm going to build into for sure. I think I'm going to rent a block of time out for one of their rental planes through the school that I went through. Might try and see if I can get with other students to build time together. I was going to give myself a bit of a break after this, just to kind of soak it in, maybe take the family or kids on a ride here and there. No, I'm still going to do that, but I was like, I'm going to go into instrument, but I'm going to give myself a little bit. And then yesterday, one day after my check ride, I signed up for Shepherd Air's IFR program. So here I am, already hitting the books, already ready to start diving into that. That's, 90% of the people that I've heard or talked to said IFR was the hardest one. So yeah, the instrument rating it already looks in depth, talking about holds and fixes and approach paths and the different approaches you take. There's a lot to it for sure. So I'm glad I got I signed up for Shepherd Air. Everybody said Shepherd Air is probably the best program, especially for instrument rating. So far, so good. I haven't really dived into it deep yet. I printed off the stuff I needed to print off and signed up and kind of glanced through how the program works, but I'm going to start diving into that here shortly so I can get my instrument rating. And then really it's about time building, and having an instrument rating will obviously help. Being up here in Maine, New England, the weather doesn't always cooperate. So being able to go out when clouds are low and stuff, as long as it's not an icing issue or something, like I can still go. That'll be good. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this update, this video. Super stoked. I can't believe we're here now. I apologize again for anybody that's been following along. I know I don't have that many subscribers for this, but if you have been following along and you've been wondering where the update is, here it is. I apologize. Busy life, working, kids, and trying to accomplish this. I don't get a whole lot of time to make YouTube videos. So here's this update. I'm not sure what the next update will be. I want to try and make it more regular. I said that in the last video, so no promises. But hopefully the next update won't be in 3 months. So I'll leave you with that. Thanks for checking me out. And hopefully the next update will be just as happy. We'll catch you on the flip side.